Hey everybody, Nick here, and today I am got a disassembly discourse for you. And I'm working on this little guy right here. This is a Spyderco paramilitary too. I'm actually switching out the scales. I'm moving from this guy, these set of custom scales from RG Custom Machine Works to the good old-fashioned vanilla paramilitary 2 style scales. These are beautiful scales, but I think I should get another PM2 to put them on. So, yeah, that's my goal for today. But as I was doing this, I thought, hey, I should make a video. And the thing that's come to mind for me right now as a video topic is the absurdity of my position, so to speak, and of my life more generally. My life has been absolutely absurd. And by the way, to highlight that, I've decided I'm going to use... That was actually a conscious choice, but I think it fits well. I'm using the 3 most bougie screwdrivers in this, on God's green earth here. I've got a Makar screwdriver here out of titanium. This guy from Good Screw, which is actually their name, I swear to you, in Damascus, and this guy in an anodized titanium, which is... But in a lot of ways, that's what made me think of today's video topic. Like, the fact that I have 3 high-end the fact that I have any high-end screwdriver, the fact that high-end screwdrivers exist is evidence of the absurdity of my life. And, my life's been absurd for a long time. I've been absurdly lucky. I've had some completely absurd tragedy in my life, and, I continue to now be absurdly lucky. Frankly, I am happier now than at points I thought I would ever get a chance to be. And so I'm considering myself a very, very lucky man. Don't take any of this to be complaint or, oh my God, woe is me. But I also realize that I have become, or I am continuing to become, increasingly weird as a gear reviewer, right? When I started out, I was very much... sort of a canonical enthusiast, if you will. I was a freaking knife guy. Gear geek more broadly, always had been. And I made a YouTube channel on a lark just to, I was tired of typing. I wanted to put up some reviews, so I posted some stuff. Figuring, okay, maybe someday somebody will watch something I did, and they'll learn something. That'll be great. That's a win for me. So I did that, and it turned out a couple of people watched it. And all the thanks in the world to the early viewers who decided that my content was worth watching for some reason. But anyways, nonetheless, so people started watching, and I thought, oh, that's weird. All right. And so I made a couple of more videos from stuff sitting around, and then, holy crap, people are watching more. And then after a while, I ran out of, gear that I owned, and I figured, well, hey, then I'm a reviewer now. People are watching, so maybe I'll pick something else up, It's practically justifiable, right? There's nothing I can do to, I need to. The internet demands it. This damn lanyard tube in place here. But anyways, so after a while, there we go. Get in there, lanyard tube. You in? Yeah, you're in. Now, can I get my tool out without getting the lanyard tube out? Yeah, there we go. Beautiful. Anyways, so, yeah, that started off just so very, very filthy casual, in the words of the Knife Nuts podcast. And then it grew, and it grew, and then it grew a little bit, and then it's continued growing to the point where I don't, frankly, believe the numbers, right? I look at YouTube, and I apparently passed 140,000 subscribers recently. And, okay, sure thing, YouTube. Like, I accept that, like much of my life, with the sincere belief that one of these days I'm going to wake up and some things are going to make sense. But for the moment, yeah, okay, sure thing. Yep. 100%. Like, they're going to find the bug in the algorithm and suddenly realize, no, you only have like 2 people watching. Like, oh, okay, that makes more sense. But nonetheless, so it kind of, the channel has just had this completely absurd trajectory. And that's been wonderful in many ways. And more importantly, even more important than subscribers, I have people who are really dedicated fans, right? And dedicated both in their, regular watching, in their regular commenting, kind commenting, thank you, but in just in making my content and, I guess some of my recommendations, etc., an important part of their lives. It's more flattering than you can really imagine, even though it's hard to interact with everybody or even a very small portion of everybody. And some weeks I don't have any of it in me because, oh my God, remember, this ain't my day job. And boy, has my day job been kicking my butt lately. Anyways, but that part's absurd. But then there came a point where I realized, early on, when you're just kind of buying gear and then talking about the gear that you own, that feels a lot like you're a collector who's sharing a little bit more. But as things have progressed, as the channel's gotten bigger and as more companies have been interested in, getting their stuff reviewed, getting the good, the great, the bad, the ugly, both privately as via consulting or publicly via the channel, the mechanics have changed. The absurdity level has gone up. It is not a normal thing to wake up in the morning to an email from a screwdriver company in Singapore saying, "Hey, Nick, we saw that you're reviewing high-end screwdrivers now," which is not a sentence I ever thought was going to be uttered in my presence. Frankly, high-end screwdriver. Didn't think was a thing. Turns out it's a thing. And it turns out I'm apparently a go-to guy for them now. Whew. But anyways, that's weird, right? That's... what the heck? I don't buy it. But so as a result, though, that's an area where things are very absurd, where things are very, very weird. And I acknowledge that, and I can sort of appreciate that. But more importantly, and so the fact that I'm, reviewing high-end screwdrivers and, wristwatches that are completely absurdly expensive and all of that, it's cool. That's weird. Completely freaking nuts. But, that I can sort of deal with. The thing, though, that makes me kind of scratch my head a little bit more, the thing that that I think more about on a regular basis, is the fact that this level of, and I'm not going to say like fame or anything, but maybe prominence, this level of companies being interested in working with me to get their stuff reviewed honestly, means that my life is very different now, I think, than that of a lot of your daily collectors of the gear, right? Because, for a lot of people, I look at my Patreon Discord, which is a wonderful community and is one of the things that keeps me going during rough weeks, right? But, and I'll see, people in there posting, hey, new knife day, that's great. And there is so much excitement there about, something that's just arrived for them. And I, feel that. I God knows I feel that as a gear geek. Like that's a heck of a day, right? But then I sit back and I realize that, there are weeks where I might have a new knife day 3 or 4 days of the week. This is a beautiful thing. It's an absurdly wonderful position to be in as a gear geek, but at the same time, it's also very, very different, I think, than the experience of most folks. And as a result, there's sort of a level of tolerance that builds up. And I mean that in terms of kind of like to a drug, right? Where it's like, if you take something every day, it doesn't have as much effect as if you only take it every so often. And as a result, I think it's, for me, emotionally, I don't have a lot of that same experience that much anymore. Like, certainly, there are pieces that I'm really excited about that are, that I anticipate to be really amazing. And in some cases, they are. And in some cases, well, maybe not so much. But regardless, I do still get that on occasion, but it takes a lot more for that to happen. And I am in the completely ridiculous position of, I can get a $400 or $500 knife and it's just like, oh, okay, cool, that arrived, set it down on the desk and get to it when I get to it. That's great, but it's also very different, right? It's a different world than I think a lot of, even some of the luckiest collectors out there are in, because a lot of that has been removed. A lot of that sort of emotional incentive, a lot of that, it's no longer quite as much of a thing. And how do I put this? I'm disassembling here. Do this little guy is a Monterey Bay EZC 1.5 in a nice micarta. But anyways, this, I think, is a double-edged sword, right? At some level, one of the things it does do is it removes an element of the sort of honeymoon phase that you sometimes have with new gear, where you get something and it's, oh my God, amazing, because it's something you've been anticipating for a long time. It's something you've saved up, weeks, months, years for, and then suddenly you're able to get it. And so that's frankly, it's a lot of fun, right? Emotionally, it can be in some ways very satisfying. The fever of a new illusion, it can be a beautiful thing. But when you have things arriving on a regular basis, that becomes a lot less prominent, right? That becomes less of a factor in the decision making and, frankly, in the reviewing. Early on, certainly, new things arrived with a great deal more emotional fanfare because it was a lot less common, right? And especially on the higher end, people didn't just send me high-end screwdrivers, right? And there are definitely cases where I still buy things, right? But at the same time, some of that feeling of like, oh my God, brand new honeymoon has gone away. And that may make me more objective. I didn't say objective, I said more objective. That may remove one source of bias in all of this, but it introduces sort of another one in that I no longer have, or at least it's much more moderated, if you will, modulated perhaps, than your average gear geek, right? I no longer have that same exact feeling. I no longer go exactly that same emotional route. And so you could view that as a plus or a minus, and I think you'd be right either way. So that's kind of another level of sort of the absurdity to it. The other thing that becomes absurd in my position, I have now reviewed a bunch of freaking gear. Like I look back every so often, like just recently I was filming my Gear of the Year video. And part of that requires me to go back and look at all the gear that I looked at over the course of the year. And in a lot of ways, it's entertaining because I'll just go back and look at sort of the list of the videos that I've uploaded and such. And it's like, holy crap, yeah, I forgot about that. And this is something that I reviewed like 3 or 4 months ago. But because of the nature of my sort of review schedule, as well as the fact that I got a bunch going on in my life, in a lot of ways, something that happened 3 or 4 months ago may completely disappear from my memory. I remember it when I have to think about it, right? But there were definitely things that snuck up on me, like, oh, God, that was that year. Or, oh, I forgot about that thing. For good, bad, or ugly, right? I am doing this backwards. This pivot needs to go in on this side. And I should hit this with a Q-tip as well. So, because I have reviewed all of this stuff, I could make an argument that I have a little bit of a different perspective relative to somebody who's just stepping into the knife review game. And by the way, I think it's a really great idea for us to get more and more people stepping into the knife review game, right? There's a lot of joy in that. It gives different perspectives. It gives, different backgrounds, etc. But as a result, though, I'm going to just have a lot more... just going to have a lot more experience with a lot of different pieces than somebody who's just getting started and is reviewing as I started off. I'd been in the hobby for a number of years, but I just had nowhere near the breadth, so to speak, of exposure to pieces that I do now. People, the joke is, kind of you tell, if something is Shabazz smooth if you've not handled a Shabazz. Part of why going to a show is great. Can help you kind of jumpstart some of that. But, that perspective is great. And that's one of the things I think that a lot of companies are interested in, especially when they, may ask for me to do some consulting for them. I can talk about things relative to the entire market in a way that perhaps fewer enthusiasts can. But at the same time, it also makes it a lot harder to stand out, right? Because I've seen a lot of stuff come and go. I've seen a lot of, oh my God, the new hotness, this is cool, this is amazing. And sometimes I've been the person saying that only to realize that a couple of years later, I've completely forgotten about it. Or maybe it didn't even take that long, right? And so, with that perspective comes a little bit more difficulty to please. It's like, well, yeah, this is a great piece, and I can totally see there were a number of reviews. I'll get like comments just on a regular basis from people saying, oh my God, Nick, this knife is way better than you gave it credit for. I just got this. This is my first really nice knife, and it's amazing. And you know what? It is. But when you've got a perspective that looks over along, a huge amount of the market and a large number of knives, it might seem a little less amazing. That's, again, a pro and a con of my position, right? It allows me to say things like, well, compared to this other thing, this isn't that amazing. Or, holy crap, compared to this other thing, the world has changed. We are in a better place. It allows that to happen, but it is another sense in which I'm absurd, which my reviews are very, very different. And so I don't know. This is just something I've become increasingly aware of. I don't know how much it changes anything because honestly, okay, the other downside to being me or to my content is that I'm not, and I've said this many times before, I'm not doing the 6-month long-term use sort of review, right? If I carried something for, freaking 12 months already, then I'm going to have a much different perspective of it than if it's something that I carry for a few days, maybe a week or two, just to get a real good sense of it, right? That I would have a different review. Chances are, I don't think that different, but I would have a different review over long-term use than I might over short-term. So if you're looking for long-term, then you should find somebody who does that, right? So, I think a lot of people are already sensitive to that and aware of that. But, so that's one of those things that I've kind of done my best to, how do I say, just to address, I guess, frankly, they can compensate for in my own brain to whatever extent I'm able to. You know what? This hasn't gotten some love in a little while. The original. Actually, not the original one I reviewed on the channel. But nonetheless, the one that started it all. Where's my absurd screwdriver? Yeah, so there are a few ways that I try to kind of deal with this and manage this. One of them is by actually reviewing a little less, right? And that's kind of the mode I've been in lately. And I've talked about this in a number of different forms, and I think we'll continue to do so. But, I've talked about, wanting to be a gem hunter, right? Wanting to find the best of the best and review that rather than trying to do every damn thing. Part of that is because this isn't my day job, right? I have a day job that I very much love, right? And it would not make sense for me to quit that for YouTube. And frankly, I wouldn't want to. I would come to regard this as much more a form of work. And I think I need to... Do I need to remove the back? Yeah, I think I do. No. How quickly we forget. No, I think I can just get the back piece off without that. Yeah, okay, great. Didn't even have to remove the clip. But anyways, so, what was I saying? Oh, yeah, so by kind of turning down the tap a little bit and, saying to people, yeah, that sounds great, but I think I'm going to pass on that one. I've got a lot on my table already. That allows me to take a little bit more of a collectively pace with it, right? It certainly limits the number of new pieces I can take a look at. And in a lot of ways, this is much better now because, when I was getting started, there weren't as many people doing it. Now there are a bunch of people doing it. And chances are you can get a very nice, very detailed review from any number of different channels of the brand newest, hotness from... I'm taking companies like We Knives or Civivi, Artisan Cutlery, or frankly, a number of other brands that I might not have the time or energy or effort to get to, right? No diss on those brands, but they just produce a lot of pieces. And there's no way I'm going to be able to check out the We Knives blubbity-blah reliably because We Knives makes 15 blubbity-blahs every freaking week. And as a result... Yeah, I got some troubles there. But anyways, by taking on less stuff, it brings a little bit of balance to things. It allows me to spend more time on a given piece to really get a little bit more of that feeling of like, how would this feel? How does this feel as a collector? How does this feel as a true everyday carry piece? And I think that's good. I think that's beneficial to my reviewing and to my life in general. It also gives me a chance to focus more on pieces I'm enthusiastic about. And I think that's huge both for me and my own sort of emotional relationship to reviewing. Because I've said before, it's actually the hardest part is not the pieces I hate or the pieces I love. It's the pieces I don't care about. The pieces where you're just like, yeah, that's a pocket knife. Good job. You made a pocket knife. Those are the ones where it's just like, ugh, brutal to do. And so by doing less of that, I'm able to focus more on the parts that bring me joy and, to really focus on doing the thing that kind of got me started with all this too, just helping people out. So that's, another approach that I've been taking. But, the other thing that I've been trying to do is sort of leave room for other people, right? As I've said, I am so very enthusiastic about a number of the different people who've come out and started doing review, right? A lot of people are like, oh my God, Nick, have you noticed? Like, it's getting to the point now where a number of people are kind of dethroning my videos as the top result in the YouTube algorithm, probably because they post more or they do something that YouTube enjoys, like the shorts. People are like, oh my God, Nick, are you pissed? They're taking over, and it's like, great. No, of course I'm not pissed. I'm so very happy, right? Because there are so many people, there were so many voices, so many perspectives, so much gear that I could never handle, that my life, my work, my work on this side of things, my hobby, etc., is made strictly better by having more people out there doing it, by having more people out there thinking about gear. And I think as gear geeks, more broadly, you will benefit more from reading or watching 15 reviews than you will from just watching mine. I think there's still a role for me, right? I think even in all of this, there's still a role, partly because I'm going to have access to some of the stuff that maybe other people wouldn't have access to as quickly, because I've got some positive relationships with some makers. And by the way, this is only to the extent of they send me stuff to review. I told them I'm talking about the good, the great, the bad, the ugly. You know the spiel. But nonetheless, I mean, so there's that. But I also think my level of experience, and certainly I'm not that experienced in the grand scheme of the knife world. I go to a blade show and it's like, wow, you have been doing this longer than I have been alive. Okay, you win. So I want to be clear about that, but my level of experience with the knife market is perhaps higher than some, and so my level of comparison is going to be a little broader than some. And I think that's going to be valuable too. And then finally, I do specialize in some of the detail stuff, some of the disassembly stuff that a lot of folks aren't doing, although certainly there were definitely some people who are doing a lot of the same things, right? They're doing disassembly and maintenance videos. It's great. They're, trying to look at all the details. And in fact, in many cases, they're succeeding. Heck, there are people out there who are better at this than I am. But nonetheless, I think there's still probably a role for me in all of this. But understanding what that role is kind of weird, right? And it's something that I never anticipated. Well, honestly, I never anticipated any of this damn thing taking off. But it's something that I never really thought about as I was, getting started, that, over time, the channel would change, and necessarily, and not strictly speaking, in a bad way, just in an absurd way. And so, I don't know, at the end of the day, that's kind of where I'm landing with all this. There we go. That was the other one that needed love. This guy's got a lot of pocket time. Quiet carry drift with the thumb stud. Is this T10? This is not T10. Cool. But yeah, so I think I've been trying to figure out exactly how to best, well, I don't want to say serve you all, because that makes it sound, this is a thing I still do for me, but sort of what my best role is in all of this. And, I'm curious what your thoughts are, if you've got them. And if your thoughts are just, screw you, retire, then, thanks, I appreciate your thoughts, but you didn't have to be a dick about it, right? Although it's the YouTube comments. Somebody's always got to be a dick about it. But anyways, yeah, so it's been on my mind a lot lately. And, I'm a very lucky man. I guess I should probably end it there, right? At some level, Jay's 2 cents, actually. He's a computer-based YouTuber. He does a lot of, computer content. I learned a great deal from Jay. About computers, mostly. In many ways, I think Steve at Gamers Nexus is is a little bit more equivalent in the level of detail and nerdity he goes into, but at the same time, I like Jay's 2 cents a lot. But he did a video recently talking about, basically what it takes to build a channel and to build sort of, I hate the term relationships, but relationships with makers. What that actually looks like, and how long that takes, and how much things change over time. And I found myself very, very sympathetic to it, right? There's a lot of goodness there. I think there's a lot of understanding, and I feel like, obviously he's an order of magnitude more subscribed, so to speak, and more mainstream, but I really liked a lot of what he had to say about the matter. But anyways, it's kind of a strange it is a strange world. It's an absurd world. And, yeah, it's occasionally hard to tell exactly what to make of it, to tell where I'm at, where I should be, and just to do my best to make the world a decent place, which I think is my core goal here. I mean, at the end of the day, yeah, it's nice to play with a lot of fun gear, but I started the channel, and this is going to sound cliche. Oh, I'm just here to help people, but probably help people more if I, told you to put the washer in, right? But, at some level, that's where I'm at. I want people to find gems. I want people to support people who are great people. I think that's a wonderful thing, too. And, I suppose at some level, there's a small part of me that wants to be a role model. Ugh. Pretense alert. But that, wants to show people that, it's very possible to be whoever the heck you want to be in this community, in the gear world. And to, I don't know, to be kind about it. And to, yeah, there are many kinds of people in the gear world, and I think I represent one of them. And I don't know that that kind of people was super well represented prior to my arrival. It was definitely there a little bit, but so I think that can be a joy as well. But anyways, I don't know. All this is to say that, yeah, commenters who are telling me I'm weird, you're right, right? The big question, though, of course, is not whether or not I'm weird. That's settled case law, so to speak, but what I should do about it, or if there's anything to be done. But I'm a lucky man, and I've worked hard to get there, but at another level, the algorithm has blessed me. And as it has blessed you with this video, or maybe it was a curse, I don't know. That's up to you. But anyways, hope this has been interesting to you, and have yourselves just an absolutely wonderful rest of your day. And put that in there. And, oh yeah, bye now.